Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's New Year's Day roundup. Well, here we are, we've made it to another year. 2022 has been kicked into touch, and we are now well and truly into 2023. I hope you had a lovely New Year's Eve. I hope you're having a lovely New Year's Day. I say thank you so much for tuning in to GavsWeatherVids on your New Year's Day. We're going to do our traditional New Year's Day roundup. So this has become a little bit of tradition over the years, that on New Year's Day we look at things like solar activity, sea surface temperature anomalies, Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation. We will bring you up to date with the latest stratospheric forecast as well, 10 HP over the Arctic and North Pole. And of course, in the second part of the year, we'll do the weather and we'll bring you a regular 10 to 14 day update as well. So sit back, relax and enjoy, and I shall talk you through our New Year's Day roundup in a moment. Thank you so much to Richard for our New Year's Day roundup gift. Thank you so much, Rich, for the gift, for the thumbnail. Thank you so much, Rich, for that. And Happy New Year, my friend. And just to say that the first New Year's Day was our 6 a.m. upload. We've got Terry Scott's January forecast coming up for you, probably about 7ish this evening, I would have thought. So if you could please like, share, subscribe on the edge. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. And I hope you're having a lovely, lovely New Year's Day as well. 2022 is gone. Wow, 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 wow. So sorry, everybody, but I am happy to see the back of it. Right, well, let's crack on with the roundup then. So we're going to start off with solar activity. So this is how the solar disk is currently looking on our side of this day from surham.net. We've got various sunspot regions, multiple sunspot regions actually. One there, one down here, one there, and more over there as well. And I think there's another one just beginning to appear around there also. So despite all of those sunspot regions though, solar activity is at low levels and is expected to remain at low levels for the next 3 days. All of those sunspot regions excuse me, are either decaying or are stable. This is the GavsWeatherVids Sunday Roundup Solar Activity Tracker, updated by Shryan. Thank you so much to Shryan for updating our solar activity tracker. The orange line and orange spots depicting each individual day's worth of sunspot activity. You see it being through a pretty active December. Dates are on the bottom of the chart. Of course, we go all the way back to the end of 2021 with the tracker. So you can see that we have had a pretty active December. In November, we actually had quite a significant fall, as we ended the winter updates, remember, but we did get quite a significant fall in solar activity during the last stages of November. Things really bounced back into December. We have another very large spike, although again not quite reaching the level that we got to there back earlier on into the autumn. But we did have a very large spike in activity through December. Been a bit of a drop down, but still at a relatively high level, actually. So it has been a pretty active December in terms of sunspots. The 30-day average, which is the thick green line. Oh, here we go, it's coughing again. Oh, good. The thick green line, which is the 30-day average, that is still lifting up, actually, from the low level that it went to at the end of November into the beginning of December. The 7-day average, which moves around a lot more, of course, that spiked up with the, with the high level of sunspots through the middle part of December, and then sort of fell down. It's beginning to lift back up again now as we come to the end of the month. Did that spike up that we had there, is that what brought an end to the cold spell? Spike that we had there, did that bring an end to the cold spell? Probably not. But it's interesting, that around the time that we're getting that big push up in sunspots and sunspot numbers, the cold spell did rapidly come to an end and didn't manage to keep going into Christmas. So yeah. So sorry again. That's how sunspots look over the last 12 months. We are in the ascending phase of the solar cycle, of course. So gradually, as we're moving on year by year, we are moving towards solar maximum, and so the solar cycle is increasing. It's in the ascending phase of the solar cycle, as I say, and you can pretty much see that, I think, from you know, from like the end of 2021 to the end of 2022, you can pretty much see that the trend has been in an upwards fashion. Thank you so much to Shrine for the tracker. This solar cycle 24 is comparing to solar cycle 25, looking at each month's solar data. So the final month we have just here is for December. You can see that it's been the biggest, most active month of the solar cycle so far. We have solar minimum down here from solar cycle 24 to solar cycle 25. That's where solar minimum is occurring. So you can see that since like middle 2020, something like that, we've gradually been increasing through this solar cycle number 25. And as I say, December, the most active month of the solar cycle so far. Compared to the previous solar cycle number 24, we are more or less on a par with that, to be honest. So at the end of 2011, we actually have our first solar maximum occurs early in solar cycle 24 at the end of 2011. So that is it just then. And then, of course, we fall down through 2012 and into the first half of 2013 before we get our second solar maximum, which is the solar maximum of the solar cycle that occurs around January, February of 2014. I think. So if we draw a line, you know, from December 2022 to here, you can see we're more or less on a par to sort of late 2011, really. Although we are under the spike that we had during the end of 2011, actually. So we're somewhere between sort of where we are in 2012, around here, and where we got to at the end of 2011 right now. Of course, we wait and see whether this carries on pushing upwards as we go into the opening months of 2023, or whether we get another fallback like we did in solar cycle 24, whether the solar cycle stalls for a while. So that's something else that we're waiting to see. Thank you so much to Shrine for the trackers. Now, this is from Richard. Thank you so much to my good friend Richard Trott for sending this through. This is showing spotless days and also the current spotless stretch. Just to confirm that 2022 did have one day without a sunspot. One day out of the entire year did not have any sunspots. That was less than 1% of the year. And the comparable year of 2011 had 2 days without sunspots. And again, that's less than 1% of the year. So, you know, again, this year, 2022, comparable to 2011. What happened in 2012? So 2023's comparable year will be 2012, and what happened in 2012 is that every day had sunspots. So through 2023 we should see every single day with sunspots. If we start getting any days without sunspots, then we'll know that something strange is going on with the solar cycle. Then the years beyond that, 2013 has all days of sunspots, 2014 has 1 day without sunspots, 2015 has all days with sunspots. So like 2023, 2024 and 2025 should all have sunspots, and then from around 2026 onwards, something like that, we should start finding ourselves moving back towards the solar minimum of solar cycle 25 and in towards solar cycle 26, of course, but more about that in a few years' time. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Thank you so much to Richard, and thank you so much to Schreier for the solar data. We are hoping to do a solar Sunday in February, by the way, so that's going to be something to watch out for, exciting early in the year. Right, let's have a look at some oceans data next. So this is how the oceans were looking when we did the final 13th and final winter update back at the end of November. So this is from the 25th of November. You'll remember we're looking at 4 regions. We're looking at the ENSO region just there. We're looking at the northern and also the northeastern Pacific over here, Indian Ocean over there, and the North Atlantic over there. That's how the oceans were looking at the end of winter updates. This is the very latest. So La Nina is decaying. It's still there. We're still in La Nina, but you'll see that we have had a weakening. from the end of November to the end of December. This is the 30th of December, by the way. So, headline, the story is that La Nina continues, but is decaying, and by the end of winter, so by February, March, we should be returning back towards ENSO neutral. Over in the Indian Ocean, there's not been much change there. I think the IOD, Indian Ocean Dipole, is around neutral. In the Northern Pacific, it's still relatively cooler down the west coast of Canada and also the west coast of America as well, although further out into the central part of the Northern Pacific, quite warm with the sea surface temperature anomalies there. But this cooling around the west coast of America and Canada is in response to the La Nina, so that should carry on through the remainder of the winter. And then in the North Atlantic, let's just go back. See how things are looking in our nearest ocean, the North Atlantic just there. We can see generally things have cooled down a little bit, so it's still relatively warm, really, with the sea surface temperature anomalies, especially from Greenland to Iceland, and also off the coast of Spain and around the Canary Islands, around Africa and whatnot, still pretty warm through there. The central part of the tropical Atlantic has turned a little bit cooler. The central region of the North Atlantic is a little bit cooler as well. And then over towards the eastern seaboard, relatively mild with the, or warm with the sea surface temperature anomalies there. We don't have a tripole, so another winter without a tripole, I think. Maybe one will develop by the end of winter, but for now, there's not much sign of a tripole getting going there. And just generally, you know, a relatively warm North Atlantic continues, albeit it has cooled down from where it was, you know, which was in a very warm state. It has cooled down a bit from where it was at the end of November. Southern Oscillation Index is looking like this. So the SOI is measuring air pressures. Excuse me, is measuring air pressure between Darwin and Tahiti. When the SOI is in a negative phase, the atmospheric setup will be reflective of El Nino. When the SOI is in a positive phase, the atmospheric setup will be reflective of La Nina. So if we come down, you see we are having some very positive SOI returns once again. These are our two columns just here for Tahiti and also for Darwin, and then the overall SOI day contribution is in that column just there. So you can see I've had some very, very strongly positive SOI numbers actually. 22nd of December, wow, went plus 55. And 23rd of December went up plus 50. That's exceptionally strong La Nina type setup, type state. That may also have contributed to the cold spell going down the tubes before Christmas, when La Nina, or the atmospheric setup of La Nina, you know, becomes a very pronounced and strong one. That can have an impact on the rest of the weather system, and that may have, you know, contributed to weather turning milder and more unsettled just before Christmas. Since then, still very positive with the SOI, not as positive. These returns are more sensible. So Christmas Day, for example, comes out plus 17. Boxing Day, 26th of December, that comes out plus 17. 28th of December, quite strong, 28.08. 29th of December, 29.06. 30th of December, 26.57. And New Year's Eve comes out at 29.448. New Year's Day, as I say, comes out at 28.41. So they're strongly positive SOI numbers, but they're not as ridiculously, insanely strong as we have here, you know, just before Christmas, where we go to plus 50 and plus 55. Wow. As far as the 30-day SOI average is concerned, that has lifted up into strongly positive territory. So at the end of winter updates, the SOI 30-day average has actually reduced, still positive, but had reduced quite a bit. But through December, look how the SOI 30-day average has gone really strong. Again, this is probably just about as strong as it's going to get. It should start backing off now, I think, through the remainder of the winter, and by the time we get into the spring, we should be back at ENSO neutral condition. That's certainly what the CFS is forecasting. So this is the latest forecast from CFS B2, which does pretty good. We do lambast the CFS, but for its ENSO forecast, it does seem to do pretty good, to be honest. And at the moment, of course, we're still around sort of weak La Nina territory, just there, somewhere around 1 degree below average. Through the remainder of the winter and into the spring, so that's January there, that's April there. Through the remainder of winter into the spring, we see a return back to ENSO neutral. And then beyond that, from spring to summer and just about to autumn, it looks like we lift up towards a very weak El Nino. But that does look a little bit inconclusive, I have to say. It may stick it around ENSO neutral. So we're going to wait and see. We're going to wait and see whether we go off into an El Nino through 2023, 2024, or whether we continue to be around ENSO neutral. I would be very surprised if we have another La Nina. This is, or has been, the third La Nina in succession. We talked about this, of course, in the winter updates. We have had a triple dip La Nina. And I don't think there's ever been a recorded instance where La Nina has gone on for a fourth year. So, I mean, never say never. Anything is possible with weather, as I always say. So I wouldn't completely rule out that we'll have another La Nina, a fourth La Nina, but I will think either ENSO neutral or an El Nino event is more likely through 23 to 24. And obviously, we will keep a close eye on all of the developments through this year. Right, so QBO, quasi oscillation next. So this is from NASA. So with this, you have to think that this is the top of the atmosphere in the stratosphere at 10 HPA. This is the boundary level of the atmosphere that we call the troposphere at 30 to 50 HPA. That's where weather is taking place. And this sandy brown area is the westerly phase of the quasi oscillation. You see that did descend from the stratosphere into the troposphere in that sort of fashion. So we're well and truly into a westerly quasi oscillation. This winter is a westerly QBO winter, and not much more to say about that, other than westerly QBO tends to be associated with the powering up of the zonal westerly flow, and so therefore does increase slightly the chance of or maybe increases rather significantly the chance of a relatively milder northern European winter, although there there are instances where cold winters occur with a westerly phase of the quasi-biennial oscillation. This is from NOAA, just to say that the QBO number for November came out at plus 12.45, so quite strong, and December's QBO number will be placed just there. We should get that in a day or two's time, so we'll bring you up to date with that when we do the sunny roundup, which I think we're probably going to do. I'm not sure whether we'll do that at the end of January or in early February, but we will do a sunny roundup within the next month, and we will bring you the QBO data, for December. Then, of course, we will. Excuse me, everybody. Arctic oscillation observed and forecast is looking like this. However, the AO, similar to the QBO, and the SY, just an index that's reflecting the absolute state. It does not drive anything in its own terms, just tells what it's actually doing. So when you've got a negative AO, you've got high pressure blocking over the Arctic and over North Pole. When you've got a positive AO, you've got low pressure over the Arctic and over North Pole. Look how negative the Arctic oscillation went through the first half of December. That's where we have the cold spell with all of that northern blocking around Greenland and into the Arctic. Since then, the AO has been around neutral, actually. So you haven't had a particularly positive Arctic oscillation, just going up to around neutral since the cold spell. But GFS ensembles are forecasting that for the first week or so of January, the AO will be neutral to weekly positive. And then as we go towards the middle part of January, we may well see the AO trending negative again. So this might be a signal for a return of blocking by the time we get into the middle part of January. Wouldn't that be interesting? The, where am I going? The NAO observed and forecast looks like that. So the reason we went milder is not really to do with the Arctic, actually, so much as the North Atlantic. The zone of westerlies came back, and we can see this with the NAO observed and forecast. So through the first half of December, the North Atlantic oscillation was negative. The second half of December took the NAO towards neutral, and then around Christmas, just before Christmas, we went actually positive with the NAO. We are still currently positive with the NAO, and the GFS ensemble is forecasting that the NAO will stay positive through the first week of January as well. So this is a signal, an ongoing signal for relatively mild Atlantic-driven weather. However, we do see that towards the middle of January, the NAO is starting to drop back. Not yet forecasting to go negative, but dropping back towards neutral with the NAO by the middle of January. So with both the indexes, the AO and the NAO lowering, AO reverting back to negative, NAO reverting back to neutral, by middle of January, this could be a signal for things to start getting a little bit colder. Stratosphere data next. So this is how temperatures are currently looking at 10 HPA in the stratosphere over the North Pole versus average. So we're cold on average, clearly. The black line is down there around minus 85, something like that. We should be at the end of December into January, somewhere around minus 65. So we're, significantly colder than average in the stratosphere over North Pole. 10 HPA. 30 HPA, we're even colder, so colder to average. Anyway, look how the black line is doing a bit of a plummet there still at 30 HPA down to around again minus 85, something like that. And that is lower to the troposphere, of course. Now, we've been focusing over the past few days on the chance of a stratospheric warming, maybe a sudden stratospheric warming. This is how the latest two GFS runs, between midnight and 6Z, are forecasting temperatures over the next couple of weeks over the North Pole. So this is a midnight run first of all. At the moment, very cold temperatures in the stratosphere, of course, at 10 HPA. We've already established that. Temperatures around minus 85 with both blue and purple colours. Now, over the next few days, we are going to get a slight warming occurring over Siberia. So by this time next week, we're actually going to be having a little bit of a warming around Siberia. That's not some traffic one, but it's like the first opening salvo, if you like, in things starting to warm up in the stratosphere over Siberia, and that is in around a week's time. However, the interest is beyond that into the extreme range still with the GFS. So we go into the second week of January, and the midnight run produces this further warming there around the 12th of January. That's quite significant, and that just carries on intensifying as we go through. So by middle of January, we've got a major sudden stratospheric warming occurring there. I think, in terms of the temperature, remember, we talked about this in recent videos, so the temperature is reaching sudden stratospheric warming temperature levels, definitely, with that. There are further steps you've got to go through, though, to say you're having a sudden stratospheric warming. You've got to reverse the solar winds, in particular, split the polar vortex, so the blue-purple colours need to split in two, and, of course, propagate this warmth from Siberia into the North Pole. Don't also that warmth is propagating, or is moving from Siberia in towards the North Pole there. So I think that's happening, but we haven't yet split the vortex, just displaced it. And well, we'll talk about the solar winds in a moment. That's the GFS midnight run. This is the latest GFS run, the 6Z. So again, you can see at the moment very cold with both temperatures at 10 HP in the stratosphere. As we go into this time next week, a little bit of a warming occurring over Siberia. That's the opening salvo. That doesn't do much. And then we get this next warming occurring around the middle part of January. Very significant with that. And also that looks like it's moving towards the North Pole a little bit more, actually. So it's not quite as extensive or intense with the warming, although it does reach, sudden stratospheric warming temperature levels there. But it is moving more in toward the pole, so in towards the North Pole, and so that could have impacts, and look how the polar vortex, these blue-purple colours, are becoming increasingly stretched there. That's how it looks as it starts off. Look how that polar vortex is shrinking and getting increasingly stretched. Is that beginning to hint that it might be about to split? I wonder, but that looks quite interesting. Now, as far as solar winds is concerned, this is from weatheriscool.com. Solar wind forecasts from the GFS ensembles are not yet hinting at a reversal. So at the moment, the solar wind is very strong. Let's take away those green lines, actually. So that's the GFS. So at the moment, this is where we are with solar winds, and we are strong. We're stronger than average. The black line is like average, so we're significantly stronger than average with the solar wind in what is already a pretty strong time of the year. If we put the GFS ensembles back in, you can see that over the next week or so, we are going to get a weakening of solar winds. And then they actually start to power up more as that warming is occurring over Siberia before probably starting to drop back again. by the end of the GFS runs, which is in towards the middle of January. But if we get a reverse of solar winds, we're going to have to take those green lines, you know, from there all the way down to there, to say that solar winds have gone into reverse. At the moment, there's no sign of reversal of solar winds. So technically, this is not a sun stratospheric warming. Let's go back to it. Technically, that is not a sun stratospheric warming, even though the temperature is reaching the required level. You know, say that the temperature's reached required level, until you send the solar wind into reverse, you haven't had a southern stratospheric warming. Remember, the solar wind going into reverse is a lag, though, on the temperature. So the first thing you've got to do is lift the temperature up. We've done that. Then you've got to take those warm temperatures from Siberia or Canada, North Atlantic, wherever they start. You've got to take those high temperatures from that area and move it into the pole. That looks like it's happening. On both the midnight and particularly on the 6 GFS runs. That's happening. But the third thing you've got to do then is start to send the solar winds into reverse as a response to that warming. There isn't any sign of that at the moment, but it is a lag, so you'd expect that, you know, a few days further on from here, really into the third week of January, probably to reverse the solar winds and possibly split the polar vortex rather than just displace it, and then move that warmth down from 10 HPA to 30 HPA, and send the solar winds, you know, into reverse at 30 HPA too. So further steps we've got to go through. It's all looking very interesting, though, what's going on here in the stratosphere over North Pole, and we will keep you posted. Just want to talk about central temperature. So CT has been confirmed for December to be coming out at 3.4. That is over a degree colder than the 61-99 average. Every other month in 2022 has been warmer than average. It's been a remarkable year. January was near normal, but February was very mild at 6.9. We had a very mild March as well at 8.0. April was pretty warm too, 9.2. Very warm May, 13.1. June a little bit closer to average, 14.9. And then, of course, we get that pair of very hot months in July and August, 18.2 and 18.7 respectively. It was the hottest August since 1997. I think September closer to normal, 14.4, and then of course very, very mild in October and also November, 12.8, 9.2, and then right at the very end of the year, the final month comes out colder than average at 3.4, which as I say, it's over a degree colder than the 61 to 1990 average and the 81 to 2010 average. It's around 1.5 degrees colder than the 91 to 20 average, I think. Overall, the yearly temperature for 2022 comes out at a remarkably warm 11.1. That is the warmest year on record. The only other year that's gone into the 11s is 2014. That happened retrospectively, so we didn't know at the time we had an 11 Celsius CT year, but the Met upgraded that with the adjustments last year to 11.0. But in any case, we have beaten that with 2022 coming out at 11.1. So that is our warmest year within the entire CT index. Remember, the CT goes all the way back to 1659. So it's the warmest year in the index since this index began in 1659. And remarkable developments. We should wait and see what happens in 2023, of course. Right, let's start doing some forecasting then. So this is good bits, isn't it? Good roundup. This is how the GFS ensembles looking for the next couple of weeks in terms of the upper air temperature and precipitation for Northampton, following on from yesterday's New Year's Eve roundup. I thought we'd have a look at Northampton again. So red light to 30-year upper air temperature average for Northampton. You'll see we're very zonal at the moment, with warmer and also cooler and warmer sectors alternating with one another. Very mild actually through the middle part of next week. Now getting to the second week of January up to the middle of the month, there is a little bit of a cooling trend that's in evidence there, so we might start turning things a bit cooler when we get into the towards the middle part of January. But certainly the first week, 10 days of January, going to be very mild and also unsettled as well, with plenty of precipitation spikes, especially there around sort of the 8 to 12. Looks like that could be a very wet period, and then beyond that actually looks pretty unsettled. Sea level pressure looks like that, so pressure is rising a little bit at the moment, but it's going to drop again as we go into the second week of January before maybe start to recover a little bit around the middle part of the month. And what's Snow Road doing? Not all that much of the first week of January. Certainly no snow prospects up to like the second week of the month. After that, there are some snow spikes, not that many of them though. So we'll wait and see what happens with snow. I would like to do a snow watch because I was in America where some parts of the country were having heavy snow during the first half of December. So I missed out on doing snow watch, didn't I? It would be nice to be able to do some snow watches for you in January. But we've just got to wait and see what the weather gods have got to say about that. Temperature anomalies from the temperature anomalies from the 1st to 9th of January coming out milder than average at England, Wales, still a little bit cold on average to Scotland. That, goes with Scandinavia, which away from southern Sweden anyway, and Denmark is looking quite cold too. So that's where the cold temperature anomalies are, and just into Scotland. Otherwise, a bit above average Ireland, England and Wales. Most parts of Europe, especially Central and Eastern Europe, looking really, really mild there. And precipitation anomalies from the 3rd to 9th of January are a little bit drier over Scotland and east parts of England, wetter than average for the south and for the west. The latest from that from earthnorthschool.net shows that we're still drawing in the southwesterly winds today, and we've got more areas of low pressure in the Atlantic. They'll be with us through the next week. Right, go through chart data then. Miss Albert Lake, you can make your run until midnight on Wednesday. Talking of low pressure, low pressure being wet, windy weather in, but also my southwesterly winds around the middle part of the week. Another deep low pushing through there on Friday. That's been further wet and windy weather with it. And the unsettled weather, the onslaught, really continues into next weekend with further strong westerly winds, with showers on the spells of rain. Possibly start to turn a little bit cold as well as the wind starts to back off Greenland by the end of next weekend. So that could start to turn the showers a little bit wintry up in the north. I'm so sorry everybody, I hope my voice is going to hold out before we end off this video. I can't. Again, rather wet and windy through the middle part of the week, and more low pressure coming through at the end of next week too. And next weekend looking really unsettled as well, with low pressure continuing to rule the roost and dominate the weather all the way up to midday next Sunday. Looks unsettled. Notice though, Icon is raising pressure over Scandinavia a little bit. Not yet a fully formed Scandinavian high back, but it is having an effect. It is sending these low pressure a little bit further south along the jet stream as well. It's not that far from starting to pull cold air in to Scotland from the east there actually. The GFS midnight run, again looking rather wet and windy on Wednesday, but it's mild. Into the end of next week, it stays unsettled with further low pressure bringing more bouts of wind and rain next weekend. And that takes us up towards day 10, just what's very unsettled the length of January. Another battering from further wind and rain then. Into the extreme range with the GFS midnight run. Eventually starts to turn colder. We begin to get a bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge going. This area of low pressure starts to push down into the North Sea. That brings some cold air, particularly into the north actually. A little bit less so further south, but I think all areas are starting to turn cold there. And just a hint that heights are beginning to rise towards Greenland as well by 17th of January. That's as far as we get to with the GFS midnight run. And just a bit of a hint maybe that, some cold air's pulling into the north, and we're beginning to raise heights around Greenland a little bit. What about GFS 6 there? Again, very wet, windy on Wednesday. More unsettled weather through the latter part of the week and into next weekend as well. Turning colder as well as that low pressure digs in to the North Sea. That starts to pull some colder air in from the north, so possibly that could bring some snow to northern areas. Back into wet and windy and milder weather by day 10. And then again, similar to the midnight run, starts to turn a bit colder as we move up towards the middle part of January. High pressure starts to build across the country. Just a cold ridge would certainly be bringing overnight frost and fog. And eventually, which is the 17th of January, as far as we get to, we finish up with like a ridge in the Atlantic going towards Scandinavia and winds pulling in to the northeast. That will start to bring colder air in from the east, actually, with that. That's how the upper air temperatures look. We have got quite a lot of cold air sitting over Scandinavia. So getting colder with both the GFS midnight and 6Z runs around the middle part of January. That's probably not anything to do with the stratospheric warming because up to that point, stratospheric warming has not had enough of an impact on the North Pole, to change the pattern. So that's probably just like rather random weather conditions, you know, within any winter you can get colder. This, of course, this winter has already had cold weather in the first half of December, so we know there's that possibility and potential, and as I say, I don't think that's got anything to do with the stratospheric warming up to that point. GM, if you enjoyed this New Year's Day roundup, we are nearing the end now. It's been a very long video, but we're nearing the end. If you enjoyed this New Year's Day roundup, then please can you like, share, subscribe. Thanks so much, everybody, for doing that. GM, again, looking very wet and windy through the middle part of the week, and then on into the extended. Stays unsettled, and turns colder, really, as the jet stream moves southwards. So, jet stream eventually pushes southwards, and these areas of low pressure keep it unsettled, but with winds coming in from the northwest, there's a growing threat that precipitation turns wintry, especially up in the north. And then the ECM at WF, finally, for these charts, looking wet, windy around Wednesday, stays very unsettled into the end of the week and next weekend as well, and right way up to day 10, which is the open of January, winds remain from the west, so it remains rather wet, windy. From the south, quite mild, but from the north, it's a little bit colder. This is a precipitation forecast based on that ECM run from Tometeo.com. Plenty of wind and rain coming and going over the next few days. Several bouts of rain pushing through, actually, and an increasing risk of snow the further north you go as you head to around a week out or so, but still plenty of cold rain further southwards. These are the options on the table within the ECM ensemble today for day 10. Gets us to the 11th of January from the Icelandic Met Office. 28 members of the ECM ensembles have low pressure over and to the east of the country, which combined with a mid-Atlantic ridge could be starting to pull colder air in from the northwest and from the north, actually. So that being in line with like what the GFS operationals are doing, taking things colder around day 10. And that's the majority option, actually, within the ECM ensemble. 28 members going for that. 12, including the operational run, keep things a little bit milder, a little bit flatter and more westerly. So the majority option actually favours like rather colder conditions, and then we've got 11 here again with low pressure over to the north of the country, and that keeps wind in from west too. So these two are the two mildest options, particularly that one, which was the operational run option, and then we have got the majority option there to be a little bit colder. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we have, which gets us to the 16th of January. 21 members of the ECM ensembles are reaching in high pressure from the Atlantic and going up towards Scandinavia. That probably be starting to bring the wind in from the east and from the northeast there. We've got 18 with low pressure just to the east of Scotland, high pressure in the middle of the Atlantic. That's going to be unsettled and potentially bring down winds from the north. And then we've got 12 with high pressure around the North Atlantic in towards Greenland, and low pressure to our south and east, and that will bring the wind in from the northeast. So whichever option you take, it looks like the ECM ensembles are trending colder by the middle of January. Interesting. CFSB2 finally, and then we're done. So it's a 500 millibar high tonight, bringing down into week periods. The first week period take us from the 1st to the 7th of January. The coming week will have high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north. Winds will be coming up from a mild southwesterly direction. Of course, week 2 is also going to be mild. This is the 8th through to the 14th of January. High pressure again in control. It's a little bit further north. Might get a bit of a breeze from Tucson with that. Could get a little bit of frost and fog. But overall, that's a relatively mild position for the ridge. Week 3 is going to be the 15th to 21st. It's New Year's Day, everyone. 2023. Wow. New Year's, so what am I talking about? Week 3 is going to take high pressure out to the west and just start to drop in. Perhaps something a little bit cooler from the northwest. Again, there could be frost and fog with that. And then week 4 is going to be the 22nd, 28th of January. High pressure just to west, low pressure in Scandinavia. It looks like that's about to try and get a northerly going, although a bit inclusive, a bit flimsy. But I think hints are there, hints have been there at CFS that we might turn things colder second half of the month. Well, look, if you've enjoyed this New Year's Day roundup, it's been a nearly 40-minute epic. Goodness gracious me. Had a lot to talk about, though. If you enjoyed this New Year's Day roundup, then please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. And that is the first roundup of 2023. Now, we're going to be doing Sunday roundups once a month. Probably from January. This is like a sunny roundup, though, really. That's why I'm struggling a little bit, because it's New Year's Day, but it's also Sunday. So this is like January's Sunday roundup, really. So the next sunny round will probably be the first Sunday of February. But we shall see. Anyway, there's going to be sunny roundups, you know, which will be like this scenario through once a month through 2023 up until we get to September, when of course the next batch of winter updates will be starting. But let's not think about that yet. So sunny roundups on the way. Hoping to do sunny as well in February. There'll be loads and loads of content coming up through 2023. Could be live streaming as well. Next live stream will be tomorrow. Can you believe that? At 8 p.m. So yes, you know, there's lots to look forward to on the channel in 2023. And the next video is going to be Terry Scoley's January forecast. That's going to be coming up at around 7 p.m. So make sure you check that one out. Tomorrow we're going to have the it's Monday tomorrow, isn't it? So tomorrow we're going to have the 6 a.m. forecast. We'll have a 10 to 14 dayer, and as I said, we'll be live streaming probably on Stumbles Watch, I would have thought, something like that, at around 8 p.m. You enjoy the rest of your New Year's Day. Thank you so much to Shrine and to Richard, by the way. Thank you so much to Shrine and Richard. Happy New Year to both Shrine and Richard. Hashtag Team Gav. So you enjoy the rest of your New Year's Day. Make sure you check out Terry Scoley's January forecast a little bit later on. But for this New Year's Day roundup, that's all for now. And thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.